All right, here we go. Are we live? Please let me know in the comments if you actually do indeed see me. Nick Chubb is at the building as we speak, as Aaron Wilson reports. Veteran running back Nick Chubb, yada, 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 is at NRG Stadium this morning for today's visit. Healthy, expected to join on a one-year deal. That's the big question. Oh, boy. If you got, you're here. Thank you, everybody. Thank God. Boy, so he's there. He's at NRG Stadium. If you're watching this after Nick Chubb has already signed and what have you, all of this stuff that I'm about to say holds true with one possible exception, and I'll get to that. 7 things that I really, really like about this. I understand I'm the first person to say, hey, hold your horses here. He wasn't the same guy that he was previously when he came back from that horrific injury in 2023. Broke his foot at the end of the season and was still doing some good things on the field, just wasn't the same explosive, scary as hell, breaking tackles all over the place guy. But he was at least showing glimmers of it and doing it with some pretty heavy usage at times by the Browns. The first one, biggest reason, most important reason of all, pettiness, sheer pettiness. Here's Ken Carman and Anthony Lima from up there at our sister station at Odyssey in Cleveland talking about the prospect of Nick Chubb coming to the Houston Texans.
Are you going to root for Nick Chubb in Houston?
Yeah, probably. Why not?
I don't know. I'm torn. I want to root for Nick, but I really don't like the Texans.
Yeah, but I like C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, me too.
So you like the quarterback and the running back, but you don't like them?
Yeah, I think that's always always a thing.
Are there a lot of teams that fit that example?
No, there isn't.
But you hate their coach, right?
DeMeco Ryan?
Yeah.
Why do I hate him?
Exactly. So
I don't
you like
hate
the
him.
coach, the running back, and the quarterback.
Honestly, it's like I don't like looking at them like they're like a model franchise.
We
now.
all know why you hate them. It's the same reason that a lot of people hate them.
Tell me why.
He got grifted.
Bingo.
Grifted? No, you knew full well what you were getting into with Deshaun Watson. Everybody knew it. Everybody was amazed that you gave up as much draft capital as you did, or that you gave him the fully guaranteed contract. Grifted? No, the Browns made a stupid decision, and I feel bad for you. I didn't expect Deshaun Watson to end up being to struggle on the field as much as he did, but there's a symmetry here. I mean, look, Nick Chubb was originally drafted with the draft pick that the Texans gave the Browns to basically unload Brock Osweiler's contract in that trade. It was as close to an NBA salary dump style trade as you'll ever get. I'm still amazed that they approved it, but they drafted Nick Chubb. We're not going to get set back the same version of Nick Chubb as we've discussed, but there is that upside still. There is that potential. I think number 2 is simply the contract. So number 1, pettiness. Number 2, the contract. As Diana Rossini had reported, the Texans are expected to sign running back Nick Chubb to a 1-year deal pending a physical. Chubb received more lucrative offers from other teams. That's big, but could sign a more incentive-laden contract to join Joe Mixon in Houston's backfield. This is key because this is where the high reward, low risk element comes into it. I'm expecting, unless we get a report at some point, that it'll be about $4.5 million, give or take, plus a bunch of incentives, and that other teams apparently might have been willing to offer more. The fact that Chubb chose to come to the Texans means a couple things. One, the Texans aren't stretching. This is a responsible risk like Cam Akers was last year. This is an extreme version of that. But this leads us into the third reason I really like it, is that Nick Chubb looks at the Texans as a place that he wants to go on a prove-it deal to show that he can still perform the way he once performed. I think he understands the reality of the situation. It's an ugly, ugly injury, multiple tendons and ligaments torn, multiple surgeries, sounding a lot like Tank Dell's injury, to where he could have conceivably not played at all last year. He came back and played, but he's on a prove-it deal if he signs this deal with the Texans. And you look at it and you think on the surface, man, he wants to go to a team where, yeah, Joe Mixon had over 1,000 yards, but it was almost all Joe Mixon earning those yards. The offensive line was not good. They didn't make a lot of marquee moves in the offseason to improve the offensive line. I think the presence of Joe Mixon itself, which is maybe a little bit ironic, is probably one of the big things that Nick Chubb would like. If you look at him last year when he came back, it wasn't like they eased him into it. I mean, he started in game 7 had 11 carries, 16 carries, 15 carries, 11 carries, and then 20 carries, and was being treated in some respects almost like a near bell cow for a team that was struggling. And I'm guessing he felt it. So the existence of a guy who's already the number one guy probably feels good for both Nick Chubb, but I'm guessing Joe Mixon as well. Joe Mixon, he knows the best way to age gracefully as a running back in the NFL is to do the old Fred Taylor, Maurice Jones-Drew dynamic, the various other guys like they have up in the Lions where you've got to cut. Like there's enough for everybody to eat as long as the offense is performing well. But then whatever conversations he may have had, and I don't know if he did have conversations with Nick Caley, D'Amico Ryans, what's their plan and their vision, and what are their chances? I feel good that Nick Chubb felt good about that. The other part about this, just my third point, is I'm happy that Nick Chubb is choosing the Texans, despite maybe having more lucrative offers elsewhere, is that the Texans, I think, have created an environment where you've got several players over the past couple of years, and Dalton Schultz, Malik Collins, Mario Edwards, various guys who have signed 1-year prove-it deals and then been rewarded by the Texans themselves. So it's easier to envision yourself, hey, I'm going to go there and maybe I end up somewhere else in 2026, but I know that the Texans, if they like me, that might be the avenue. For a guy that's only been with one team his entire career, that might be enticing. I think sometimes and even I as a player, like I had this same dynamic. I had a chance to leave in free agency once, actually tested free agency and ended up coming back to the Texans on the first day of free agency because I didn't really want to leave. I didn't really want to leave the Texans. I liked it here. And I got out on my visits because I wanted to create leverage. I was coming off of an injury. As soon as the Texans gave me an offer, because they hadn't given me an offer yet, I was like, yep, I'm going back. So there is something to be said for just wanting to stick around. It's nice to be in a place, especially if you like the organization, you like the city, all of that. Fourth reason, he's flat out the right kind of guy. As many of you have pointed out, that this is a salt of the earth type guy. People gush about his character, his football character, how he operates around the building. A lot of swarm tendencies. You don't have to hear from me. You can hear from AI. I did the deep research and had AI. Okay, hardworking and determined. Let me bell out. Boom. Team-oriented. Boom. Polite and humble. We don't even need you to be that, but it's a bonus. Resilient and courageous. I always get nervous about courageous in a football context, but I'll take it. Quiet leadership. Andre Johnson-like. Low-key and unassuming. Derek Stingley-like. Loyal and dedicated, and I think that's a big thing. I think if you had to poll Browns fans and say, man, we get it. Like if you're a Browns fan, you get it. It's a running back who's 29 years old. He's coming off a major injury. He didn't look like the best version of himself last year. You get the need to move on. But, man, if ever you're going to make a sentimental signing or to keep a guy around because he's the right kind of guy, compared to, say, Myles Garrett, who just basically actively threatened the entire fan base and the organization to come back and get more money. It just feels different with Nick Chubb. Taking nothing away from Myles Garrett right now, yes, is a better football player than Nick Chubb is in his career. But when you talk about culture and caring for the team, all of those things, people in Cleveland just absolutely love him. So I like that. Swarm tendencies was number 4. Number 5, and this is a little low-key one, but might end up being an extra bonus. I mentioned Tank Dell earlier. Tank Dell, devastating injury, multiple surgeries to come back from that injury. A lot of people are skeptical or wonder whether or not he can ever get back up to that same level. Nick Chubb is 1 year more advanced in that process. So just by virtue of having Nick Chubb in the building to talk to Tank Dell and to maybe just lean on, Tank Dell can lean on him at times, I really like that. It's not the reason you sign him, but it's one added benefit, perhaps. Number 6, competition amongst the running backs. And this is where it gets dicey. I can't remember how I parsed this out yesterday, but a lot of people asked about what's this mean for Dameon Pierce. I think, and this isn't like set in stone or anything, but in a way, the way I think of it is Nick Chubb is in a competition against himself. He's still trying to get back to where he was. And the Texans want to see, okay, can he be some version of what he used to be? And it might not be in training camp that they realize that or know that for sure. So we'll find out and see what the Texans feel about, man, can we recapture some of that old Nick Chubb that we know and love? when it comes to Dameon Pierce, I think Dameon Pierce is in competition with Agumbawale. He's in competition with Woody Marks. He's in competition with Jawar Jordan, not to mention both of the fullbacks that are in the building. It's a crowded running back room. I do believe that they're going to give Dameon Pierce a genuine chance to see how he fits in this offense. And I think Nick Caserio and D'Amico Ryans both absolutely love Dameon Pierce. I think Nick Caley will love Dameon Pierce's personality, and everything else. It's just a matter of seeing if it meshes better. The same way it did, frankly, with Pep Hamilton's offense. I mean, the one the one difference here between Dameon Pierce and how he looks now versus or how he's looked the last couple of years versus the first year was he had a different offensive coordinator who ran an offense that was a little bit more conducive to Dameon Pierce's skill set. There is a concern where if Nick Chubb looks awesome during training camp and you think, man, all right, this is our number 2, there's some redundancy there when you have Dameon Pierce as your third back on the depth chart, where you've already got a couple of big, strong, powerful dudes, like old school all-purpose backs at the 1 and 2 spot. You've got Woody Marks, a draft pick who's 100% going to be on the team. You've got a Agumbawale who contributes more on special teams than Dameon Pierce. Dameon Pierce does a great job as a returner at times. That's where I think it's my most likely scenario at this point is that they end up probably trading Dameon Pierce during training camp. And I on the margins, and depending on what happens with Nick Chubb during camp, that's the big unknown there. Number 7. So number 6 was added competition. Number 7, he's not Ahman Green. I keep seeing people bring Ahman Green up, and I think this is the big difference. Ahman Green got a really nice deal by whatever the standards were back in 2007. I don't know. It was a 3-year deal. It was a lucrative contract. It was Ahman Green, who had still been productive, was getting up there in years, but he had a prior relationship with Mike Sherman, and Mike Sherman wanted to bring Ahman Green in and hopefully get whatever version they had, and it obviously didn't work out. The financial part is huge there. They made a financial commitment to Ahman Green to be the guy, and he just simply wasn't that guy anymore. There's a lot more risk mitigation with the way that you're doing it with Nick Chubb, if indeed it does actually happen. And then obviously the cautionary tale would be, all right, 29 years old is the time when people in their career start to maybe go a little bit south. And Steven Jackson's maybe one of the biggest cautionary tales is, if you look at, man, you go to 2011, he was still 260 carries for 1,145 yards. 2012, 258 carries for for over 1,000 yards. But then he had a groin injury somewhere along the way, either early in 2013 or previously in 2012. And he just fell off a cliff when it came to age 30 and beyond. But again, that's why you don't give aging running backs lucrative contracts. It's not a cautionary tale when you're bringing in a guy on a 1-year deal. Let's see what some of y'all have said up in here. And I'm so glad you guys can actually hear me, because Demeco. Yeah, so Ken Carmen said Demeco, which he genuinely likes. I think that's just the way he pronounced. I don't think he was trying to say Demeh as in MEH, Demeco. I think he had an issue with the Texans being presented as this bastion of the NFL where everything is done the right way. I'll be honest with you. I get to this point in the offseason, and I do start to get tired myself, even though I'm the one doling this out, of like, man, look at this swarm mentality. Wow, what a great bunch of fellas. Like, at some point, all right, yeah, I want to see wins on the football field. I want to see you get to a conference championship and beyond. Dare I dream? There's a good culture thing going that I think most people, I think if you polled 30 NFL fan bases other than the Browns and the Texans, I think 30 of them would say, yeah, the Texans have a better culture than the Browns right now. I'm sorry. I feel bad for those guys that they have to cover some of this nonsense that goes on in Cleveland, but I'm kind of jealous that they still have some of this nonsense to cover, because it's always drama up there. Let's see. The pen is full. Pierce, Dare, Taylor, Jordan, plenty of trade value for each potentially. I thought you almost said potentiality. There we go. Let's see. What did I say of Kaja's that I had? I know I steal a lot from Kaja. Kaja is really good. Kaja gives me She fact checks me, but does it via DM and not publicly with a quote tweet. So I appreciate that for her, as many of you do. Thank you. Brooks and Jacob battling out at fullback. I really like Brooks as a fullback. Some good stuff last preseason. And as some of you pointed out last night, it's true. They've been working Brooks at running back. I think, what do you want first and foremost out of a fullback in today's NFL? You want versatility. And British Brooks's versatility and being able to be a running back, but also learning how to play fullback. And he did some really impressive stuff that first preseason game when he played fullback last year. And then perhaps lined up as a tight end in that same game. It was almost like they were giving him almost like a platter. It was like a flight of sample beers, like here's 2 ounces of IPA. Here's 2 ounces of a lager. Here's 2 ounces of, all of a sudden I'm drunk and I'm a viable NFL player. So very intrigued by British Brooks. He has the advantage of an alliteration in his name as well. We had the same take about Tank and Chubb. Okay. Chubb hopefully being a good influence or mentor to Tank Dell as he tries to come back from that devastating injury. Hopefully Mixon and Chubb can spread out their inevitable injuries so we have at least one of them for each game. Another good point, Hackashack, and that might be the avenue for Dameon Pierce too, where I'm saying there's some redundancy in skill set if you have Mixon, Chubb, then Dameon Pierce, like these bulldog type of dudes, but what comes with that style of play or coming off an injury like Nick Chubb's is that they're not necessarily always 100% available, and you want to have those guys in the lineup. You don't want to, just as the Astros would love to have more than one switch hitting lefty in the lineup every single night, you'd like to have more than one option as a bulldog of a running back. All right, I'm going to. I got some Aaron Wilson's YouTube. I've really grown. I've grown to like it a lot. He gave the little tidbit about C.J. Stroud not having had surgery in the offseason, and I thank him for that. I believe he's the only one that had reported that. And also, he did a really good interview with C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who's a handful, but in a good way. I talked to a media member up in Philadelphia, and I just asked him point blank, like, "Hey, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, head case or just a little eccentric?" And he said, "No, like he said, I don't think there's anything to worry about. For one, he doesn't think that Caserio would bring a guy who is a head case into the building. And two, a lot of the he's a colorful personality and there's not really more to it. It's not like there's all these reports of drama in the locker room or anything like that. I think CJ Gardner-Johnson is just a really colorful personality. I think he's going to fit right in that defensive backfield. So I'm not concerned about that at all." Can we have one live about CJ GJ? Yeah, why the hell not? Everybody gets a gift card.